Hello investigators and welcome to Until the End of Time. My name is Werner. A few days ago, FFG released a new parallel investigator for Schizo Tool. In this video, I'm going to be doing an in-depth analysis on this new parallel skids. Before we get to the new skids, let's take a quick moment to talk about the rules for parallel investigators in general. You can use the front or back side as you wish. You are allowed to mix and match, so you can do all the old, all the new, or only the old front, the new front and the old back, or old front and new back. In addition, there are also new advanced signatures. I'll talk about those more later, but I do want to mention that they are allowed to be used with any of these combinations. You do not have to have a specific front or back to use these new signatures. Now, let's talk about the original skids before we get into the new stuff. Schizo Tool, the ex-con, is the rogue from the core set, and he has 2 willpower, 3 intellect, 3 combat, and 4 agility. He's a criminal, he has 8 health and 6 sanity. He has a fast ability. During your turn, you can spend 2 resources to take an additional action this turn, limit once per turn. With an Elder Sign effect of +2, if you succeed, gain 2 resources. On the back, we see that he has a deck size of 30, access to rogue cards 0 to 5, guardian cards 0 to 2, and neutral cards 0 to 5. Now, the old skids has been known in the community to be a little under the power curve. The main drawback people often mention is the fact that he does not synergize well with his deck building. Often, playing with both rogue and guardian cards means playing lots of very expensive assets. This gives you very powerful cards, but also leaves your ability basically useless because you'll never have the money to actually pay for additional actions. In addition, his additional action is somewhat underwhelming in a faction that has access to Leo the Luca, an ally that gives you additional action every turn after you've paid 2 resources. People have tried, and in fact people still do enjoy skids even to this day, but he's been overshadowed by some of the other rogues. Finn Edwards is a better investigative and evasive rogue a lot of the time. Jenny is a better big money rogue, as is Preston. And the Tony from the Dream Eaters kind of killed off any attempts of Skid to be a fighter, as Tony has fight of 5, which makes him significantly better at using the various rogue guns. However, people still enjoy playing skids, and some of his fans have definitely made efforts to improve him over the years. I've made a video not too long ago talking about Patrick's replacement signatures for him, which are very cool. But here we now have a replacement in the form of a parallel investigator from FFG, official and very, very cool. That's enough about the old one, let's talk about the new hotness. However, I do want to mention that these are pretty complicated abilities, and I think that's also true of the parallel Daisy, because I believe these print and pray investigators are meant to be played by more experienced players. So if you have any rules confusions or rules questions, feel free to ask, but also don't be worried if you think this is a complicated investigator. It is, that's kind of the point. It's meant for very invested players who want to try something a little crazy and cool. So, Schizo Tool, still the ex-con, still a criminal. His stat line is unchanged: 2 willpower, 3 intellect, 3 combat, 4 agility. He's got 8 health and 6 sanity, so far completely identical. But then we get to this new ability. So you have a free trigger: spend up to 3 resources to test a base skill value of 3 against a difficulty equal to the amount of resources just spent. If you succeed, gain twice the number of spent resources. Only agility and wild skill icons may be committed to this test. Limit once per round. Okay, let's talk about what those words actually mean, because it's a lot and it's not entirely clear. Basically, at any point, you may trigger this ability to spend up to 3 resources, and then you take a skill test. You don't actually have a skill you're testing. You're not testing your agility, you're not testing your intellect, you're not testing your combat. You're testing a base skill value of 3 against the amount of resources you just spent. So let's say we are spending 1 resource, and then this difficulty of 1. Now this isn't an agility test, but we are allowed to commit agility and wild icons. So for example, no, that's not the manual decks. Where did I leave the manual decks? I should have done this ahead of time, my apologies. We'll get to those cards later. I should just look them all. So we could commit something like Manual Dexterity to this test, and then we would be testing at 5 versus 1. If we succeed, we get twice our money back. So, oh well, we don't have a cultist. Yeah, let's say we succeed, we get double our money back. So this reminds us a lot of Watch This, which is a rogue skill card. We put in up to 3 resources, and then we get that many resources back if we succeed by 1 or more. Also, by the way, a card you might want to play because you can commit it, because it has a agility icon. So what this does is, at its bare minimum, you can basically always spend 1 resource, assuming you're playing on standard, to get back 2 resources most of the time. Somebody has done the math. It's, I think it's like 5/8 of a resource return value per turn, because if you fail the test, you do lose your resource, but on average you will pass more tests than you fail with most standard Chaos bags. Now that's not great, because Jenny Barnes, the rogue from the Dunwich Legacy, gets 1 resource every single turn. But this is a skill test, and we can mess with skill tests. So the most simple way of obviously improving our odds is committing something like the Manual Dexterity, or other skill cards that have agility icons or wild icons to just improve our odds. A couple of notable ones are, as I mentioned, Watch This, which is a skill that can get you even more money back. As well as something like Quick Thinking or other rogue skills that interact by succeeding by a lot. If you succeed with Quick Thinking and you succeed by 2 or more, you can take an extra action. So again, very valuable. Combine all of these together and you have a very nice package for if you succeed by a lot. Now, because it is not an agility test, something like the Moon, which just gives you a +1 agility, does not help here. You do not get this benefit on your ability skill test, sadly, although that probably would be too powerful. That doesn't mean that assets are completely useless, however, because there are 2 assets that help with this test, and those are Well Connected and High Roller. Well Connected is a 2-cost asset, limit 1 per investigator, that you can exhaust to give yourself +1 skill value for every 5 resources you have. Don't kid yourself, Skid can get a lot of money very fast, at which point they start exhausting for +2 or +3. If you then use that on its ability, you can start gambling for bigger amounts of money, which then gives you more money for Well Connected, and you can see how this is gonna go. You just get more and more cash. In addition, High Roller is also a 2-cost asset. This one costs 2 XP though. And you can spend 3 resources and exhaust the High Roller to give yourself +2 skill value for the test. If you succeed, you get your money back. Again, this is a pretty easy way to reliably gamble for more. You don't have to succeed by any amount, and you don't need to have a lot of money. You do need to spend 3 resources up front, but you're counting on getting those back, and this means you can use this ability for more and more money, which is very good because it makes you into, from Jenny levels of money into Preston levels of money. And let me tell you, Preston levels of money with this stat line is very, very strong. Okay, is that all there is to say about this ability? Not quite, but we'll get into more depth maybe later. One thing I do just want to shout out real quick is the Lucky Cigarette Case. More 2-cost assets, I guess we didn't have enough of those yet. After we succeeded a skill test by 2 or more, we can exhaust it to draw a card. Now, rogues are typically not shy of succeeding by 2, but this is another way to get a succeed by 2 every single round. If you just want to draw that card, you can use this ability. You have to put something in to kind of boost your numbers, but then you probably will succeed by 2 and draw that card. Okay, so that's enough about this ability for the moment. It is a money-generating ability in the way rogues want to do it, which is gambling, and I love that. I think turning Skids into more of a gambling archetype really works for his character, and it's really cool. Let's talk about his Elder Sign. The original Skids tool actually has one of the better Elder Signs in the game. It gets him 2 resources, so that's pretty nice. This is even more powerful, and it is crazy strong. So it is a +1, choose a level 2 or less card in your discard pile, and just add it to your hand. I've already played him only like 2 scenarios, and I've already had a scenario in which during my first turn of the game, I played Easy Mark 4 times, because I played 2 copies of Easy Mark, did something else, drew an Elder Sign, got a copy back, drew another copy of Easy Mark, and played both of those. For those of you who don't know, Easy Mark is a skill card, or is an event, sorry, from the Dream Eaters box, which is a myriad, so you can have 3 copies in your deck, get you 2 resources and draws you a card. If you play it, you can play another copy at no cost, so you don't have to spend the action. So having the ability to play 4 of those turn 1 is crazy, and it's not even the craziest thing I think his Elder Sign can do. His Elder Sign is amazing. Assuming you don't have an MP discard pile, it will always get you value. And given that he does take an extra test every single turn, you are just going to see a couple more Elder Signs per game, and I think that is going to matter. Alright, now that's the front, but we also get a new back. And this one is, you thought the front was crazy, the back is even crazier. First off, we have a deck size of 25. This is the first Investigator that has a smaller than 30 deck size, I'm pretty sure. So, wow, that right away changes a lot about this Investigator, and I'll talk a bit more about deck building in a minute. Deck building option, rogue card 0 to 5, and neutral card 0 to 5. So that's the same, but he's lost his Guardian access to access for Fortune cards and Gambit cards, both 0 to 3. Now, there's not a lot of Fortune cards and Gambit cards, but the ones that are there are quite powerful. For example, Eucatastrophe, a card that gives you an extra Elder Sign, is a level 3 Fortune card. Replacement Parallel Skids can play this card. What? In addition, Practice makes perfect. Now, you don't have access to a lot of practice skill cards. I think you just have Perception and Overpowered, unless I'm missing something. But still, this card has been making big waves in Seeker, and I don't think it's unreasonable to try to consider this card in a Skids deck, especially given that using Adaptable, the Rogue Permanent lets you swap cards level 0 in and out, so you can kind of tune your deck to be a Practice makes perfect deck for one scenario, and then something else for a different scenario. The deck building requirements have stayed the same, but there is also this additional option. When you upgrade a Fortune or Gambit card, you may instead pay the full experience cost of the higher level version and leave the lower level version in your deck. It does not count towards your deck size or the number of copies of that card in your deck. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that, let's say we have 2 copies of Hot Streak, which are both Fortune traded, so that works with his ability. This one is level 2, and this one is level 4. When we have a level 2 in our deck, we can choose to purchase this level 4 by paying 4 XP instead of 2 XP when upgrading, but then we leave the level 2 Hot Streak in our deck, and as far as I understand, that level 2 Hot Streak then no longer counts against our deck size or the number of cards named Hot Streak we have in our deck. That's important because it means we can have 4 copies of Hot Streak in our deck. This does bump up our minimum deck size from 25 to 27, but it is still a crazy ability. This is so much money. In fact, I've already run the numbers, and if you have all 4 copies of Hot Streak in your deck, something that would cost you 12 XP, you end up having a 50% chance of having a Hot Streak in your opening hand before mulligans, and approximately 80% chance if you mulligan all your cards just looking for Hot Streak. That's crazy. You would so reliably have so much money, and I'll get back to that in a minute because I think it's really important, specifically for Hot Streak. Now there's also at least one other card, which is Lucky, the Lucky level 0, Lucky level 2. And there might be some additional coming out with the Investigator starter decks. I don't want to go too in depth though. There is a link in the description that has a list of every single Fortune or Gambit card Skids can take. Check that out for yourself, go deck build. I think this ability is crazy. We haven't seen anything like this in the game before, and I kind of love it. Okay, so that's the new Skids, but what do you actually do with this? Well, at the start, he has an ability that gives him more money, and he has a stat line that is pretty standard rogue fare. If you want to just lean into that ability, you'll probably want to use Succeed by 2 effects, or Succeed by X effects, Quick Thinking, Watch This, Lucky Cigarette Case, and then pair that with well-connected and high roller style effects to boost your stat line, or boost your stats during the special free ability, as well as using skill cards like Manual Dexterity. Now, this gives you a lot of money, and from there you can kind of figure out what you want to do with that. Maybe you take someone like Lola Santiago, which can discover clues if you pay her. Maybe you just take, there's always a way to spend resources. Now, before I move off just using straight up parallel skids and talk about the combinations, I do want to mention spending up to 3 resources includes 0 resources, which means you're starting a skill value 3 versus 0. I don't think this is necessarily a deck you want to play, but it is an ability that has some that can be very powerful in the context of using Succeed by X effects, which I'm only shouting out because, because I'm shouting out because I think it's a weird way to use this ability, but people have already started trying it. There's a deck list on ArkhamDB. It's currently the topmost viewed deck list, and I've got a link in the description where you can see how having access to a single level or difficulty 0 test every single turn can really make a very powerful investigator, actually, because it makes you be able to trigger all these Succeed by 2 effects really easily. So yeah, link to that is in the description. I'm not going to go in depth there because I haven't actually tried it myself. And I kind of feel like that is something you should probably explore, because I've tried the other versions where you're just like spending money, gaining more money, having lots of money. And I think I can talk about that a lot better. Okay, so if you're doing this version of Skids, you have a small deck, lots of money, you're going to draw into all your assets very reliably, so you might want to consider removing duplicates of certain assets just so you can draw without drawing all those dead duplicates. So yeah, I think it's going to be hard to see where Skids ends up, because that 25 deck size means every single card in your deck is so important, and I think with Adaptable and other rogue tricks to swap cards in and out, his decks are going to be very unique based on the campaign you're playing, the other investigators you're playing with, and kind of comboing from there. But I also want to mention about the 2 other options we have, which are the new front but the old back, and the new back with the old front. And I think both of these are very much investigators you could play and have cool things going for them. So the new front old back combination still has access to the Guardian cards, slightly bigger deck size, but has access to this new resource ability instead of getting his spending resources for an action ability. But guess what? That's exactly what that Guardian access needed, was a way to make money, right? Now you can use this to make money to pay for all your Guardian assets. So you can have a Guardian deck that is the richest deck you've ever seen, right? Start playing Leo DeLuca, all the good weapons, a bunch of other assets, and you just go crazy with it, right? You are you can be a fighter evader, very nice combination, and then just have all the money you need to get all your assets out. And this is crazy, and this is so good. On the flip side, if you have the old front and the new back, I think you're going to really lean into this 4 hot streaks deck I've mentioned just now, which is, if you have all of these, then you have so much money in your deck, and you can include even more, right? You can include cards like Easy Mark. You can include various other money-generating rogue cards, and then you suddenly have all the money you didn't have when you wanted to play this frontside Skids. And a lot of the Gambit and Fortune cards are pretty cheap events, right? I think, sure, Uktesris maybe 2 cost a bit expensive, but there's a lot of 0 and 1 cost cards there as well. And that means that you're now playing this like cheap asset-light deck that has the ability to get an extra action every turn. And if you have, say, eCash and Easy Mark and Hot Streak in your deck, which is a lot of economy, I'm not gonna lie, but you have a deck size of 25, so maybe you even got a couple of those, and you play Leo DeLuca, you can reasonably reliably have an opening hand where you can go Hot Streak, play Leo DeLuca. From now on, I have a 5 action turn every single turn, because I make so much freaking money that I can just afford to use this ability every turn and have so many actions, right? That is enough actions to make even Tony blush, right? And at that point, you're going to use your pretty cheap deck, because apart from Hot Streaks and Leo, you keep your deck cheap, and you just rush. You just go so fast that you don't have to draw a lot of encounter cards, because he still got willpower too, so that be a setback. But you just go so fast, nobody can keep up, and I think that's going to be a crazy solo deck, right? Compared to the normal Investigator, you have almost 2 turns worth of actions every single turn. That's crazy good, and I love it. So yeah, I hope this actually made a lot of sense and isn't just a complete rambling of somebody who's really excited, because I love Skids. Void, I love Skids, and I just think that these new parallel options, all 3 of the options are very reasonable decks, and each has a clear identity compared to the other 2, right? This is about big money. This is about money for assets to play your Guardian cards. And this is about having lots of money cards in your deck so you can activate your extra action every single turn. And I think that's really cool. I love that they've created not just 1 design, but 3 designs just by adding replacement or parallel investigators. Now to top it off, I do actually have to, I should probably mention the advanced signatures as well. So the original On the Lam is a fast play of your turn begins until the end of the round. Non-elite enemies cannot attack you. The advanced version is play during any free window. Until the end of the round, non-elite enemies cannot attack you. At the end of the round, you may disengage from each engaged enemy and move up to 2 locations away. It's also become cheaper, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so it's gone from 1 cost to 0 cost. It still has the same icons. So how do you get these? Because I should probably mention that. You can choose at any point to include the advanced signature and replace the original signature. But if you do so, you have to also replace your normal weakness with the advanced weakness. So Skids' original weakness was Hospital Debts. You have to move resources onto the Hospital Debts, doing so twice per round. And at the end of the scenario, you want to have 6 resources on it, otherwise you earn 2 fewer experience. The advanced Hospital Debt lets you do it 3 times per round, but you have to have 9 resources on it at the end of the round, or you earn 2 fewer experience. I think that in general, the Hospital Debt weakness becomes a lot less punishing once we introduce Parallel Skids' ability to get a lot of money, as all 3 of these versions potentially have enough ways to make money to make Hospital Debts a lot less punishing. In addition, the front side of Skids doesn't have the requirement to get money to use his ability as much, so spending money into Hospital Debts is less bad. Because one of the problems with Hospital Debts originally is that every time you put 2 resources here, you were essentially losing 2 resources you could spend to take an extra action. For Gambler Skids, that's less of a problem. He's gonna make that money back, don't worry about it. So yeah, the new advanced weakness or signatures, as we've seen with Daisy, they're just straight up better. The fact that this can be used in any free window is actually kind of important, because it means you can react to situations going badly. The fact that you get this sort of semi-elusive ability is very strong, because it means you can just take all the enemies onto you, move somewhere else, and then at the end of the round, you just go, nope, teleport away 2 locations. In particular, I want to shout out that if you are running the original back, you have access to the Guardian card Taunt, which lets you engage all the enemies at a location, which is kind of a super cool combo with this, right? You taunt all the enemies that are on all your teammates, you move to another location or a couple of locations away, then you just disengage, move up to 2 locations back, and now all these enemies aren't going to bother you. The only other thing that's worth mentioning for the advanced signatures is that if you play the new scenario that comes with these new parallel investigators, which is called All or Nothing, and you beat the scenario, you get to either upgrade for free or downgrade your weakness, which is the only time you're allowed to downgrade these cards. Normally you are not. Once you've chosen to include the advanced signatures, you cannot go back. But if you fail All or Nothing, you have to upgrade your weakness without upgrading your signature, or you have to downgrade your signature without downgrading your weakness. So beware for those of you who like to gamble, All or Nothing can take your awesome new signature away. Okay, that was a lot of information and a lot of hype, because let's be honest, I love Skids, and I love that we finally have a Skids that is really, really strong and can really, stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful rogues that we have right now. I hope all of this makes sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I think this is great. I love that FFG is doing this. The only kind of concern I have is getting access to these print and play investigators for on the table. I've personally ordered them at Make Playing Cards, which is not an endorsement, but just, you know, that's one of the better places, I guess, to do it because they just make playing cards. But yeah, I would like to see maybe these parallel investigators released at a future product. Maybe they could do something where if they've released 5 of them, they either put them all in a box or they release a special box that's like, hey, if you didn't get the parallel investigators and printed them yourselves, you can buy this. But I really want them to keep doing this. I think there are other investigators hoping for a parallel version. I know a lot of people mentioned Jim Culver, the Mystic, who cares about skulls because he's kind of considered to be a little underpowered. I know a lot of people are hoping that there's going to be a parallel Rex Murphy, the Seeker from Dunwich Legacy, who has kind of fallen by the wayside ever since he was tabooed, because people who play with the taboo list think his ability just isn't exciting anymore, and because Rex is considered to be a supposedly cursed investigator, and we are going into the Intimate Conspiracy, which cares about curse a lot. So maybe there's something there where he gets a new ability that cares about these cursed chaos tokens, because we know that the Seeker from that cycle, Amanda Sharp, doesn't care about the curse tokens, and it would be cool to have an investigator that does. Okay, that's a lot of theory crafting, and I just kind of want to end the video here with, yeah, new skids is awesome. Please try him out if you haven't. Obviously, if you're on Tabletop Simulator, you can just grab him. He's in the pile with investigators. If you check, there's a pile with 4 of them. All the versions are in here, so just grab the one you want. His deck building rules are going up on ArchonDB as soon as, I guess, humanly possible, because it's adding a whole bunch of new constraints, like this new deck building option. They have to program that in, so I don't envy them at all. But thank you so much for watching. Please, if you have any like excitement or cool deck building ideas or questions or anything, post them in the comments. I'm always happy to talk to you guys. And thank you so much for watching. I'll be seeing you until the end of time.